Greetings, everyone. This is Sam Collins, the coding and billing expert for Chiropractic U, and of course, ChiroSecure. Thanks for the opportunity to be with you. Let's do a little bit today on insurance verification, understanding of what's covered and not covered. I think there's often a lot of misinformation where people feel afraid to even deal with it, how to deal with it, what should they ask. Frankly, it should not be as complicated as people make it. In fact, I always will tell you when someone makes it overcomplicated, get away from them because probably they're just trying to sell you something. Come to someone like HJ Ross and our company. We make it simple as ChiroSecure does. Let's go to the slides. Let's talk about insurance. What's out there? What are we going to do? Do we want to take it? Is it worth it? Is some of it worth it? All those things. I mean, we have all these different types, and this is just an example. Of course, there's many more than these. Not as many more as you think, though. But insurances of this nature, the real key factor is what do they cover? And I think that's a frustration. How do I find out what they cover? Do I do it online? Can I make a call? Let me tell you, making a call is old school. Now you're probably going to go online and do most of this verification, but there's certain factors you want to look at. And what I'm going to suggest is begin to make a spreadsheet of what insurances do cover, what don't cover, what they pay. That way, when someone comes in, you're not guessing like, oh, what did Mr. Jones have? You have something that's there to say, okay, yes, we take this plan. In fact, because I'm going to point out to you, there is no mandatory submission of insurance. You do not have to take insurance at all. You can. And here's the other part. If I decide to take insurance, do I have to take them all? And I think a common misunderstanding is that when I accept insurance, it's kind of an all or none. And it absolutely is not. It is not an all or none. The only time you are mandatorily required to bill insurance would be when you're enrolled as a provider. So Medicare is a classic example. For a chiropractic, you have to belong to Medicare in order to treat a Medicare patient. I mean, there's a loophole there. I won't get into it. But for the most part, you have to be enrolled because you have to submit a claim. The only people that can submit a claim are providers that are enrolled in Medicare. So in that part, you have to make a submission. But let's say, I don't know, you don't want to take Blue Cross. You're not enrolled in Blue Cross. If someone comes in, do you have to send a claim for them? No. Only if you're an enrolled provider. Now, here's the difference. You can pick and choose. You might say, I'll take Blue Cross for people who work at a certain company, but maybe not Blue Cross for someone that works at something different. Remember, Blue Cross, though we use that, oh, it's Blue Cross, there's a lot of plans within Blue Cross, as I'm sure you've all noticed. Some of the plans can be good paying, others not. You can certainly pick and choose which ones you want to bill, which ones you don't. When you're out of network, again, it's not mandatory. You can simply say, I accept Aetna, but not Cigna. And I think that's something you want to keep in mind. There's nothing wrong with cherry picking. Could you cherry pick and say, I only accept the good insurances? The doctor I go to, that's what he does. He'll still accept you as a patient, but if you have a HMO insurance, he'll say, well, we don't take your plan, and here's what we offer for cash patients. But he doesn't take it. He only takes the better plans. I think that's what many of us should do. Don't be afraid. Think of it this way. That's what we do with everything. Can you buy any car you want? Well, you can buy any car you want, but do you have the ability? So in other words, I may want a Lamborghini, but because I'm not going to spend $500,000, I'm not going to get one. With a patient, if someone comes to you with no money, would you take them as a patient? Now, I'll step back and say, of course, you're a chiro, you're there to help people, and we've all done that. But the reality is you don't do a lot of that, so don't be afraid to pick and choose which insurances you accept. You can always not accept any insurance, give the patient a super bill or receipt, let them bill their insurance. That's certainly a way to go. I won't say it's optimum for most plans, but there's something that can be optimized with it for plans you just simply don't want to deal with. So the key factor here is how do I know which plans to accept or not accept? And it really comes back to what do we do to verify? What do we find out about coverage? And what I'll say is do not leave it to chance. And I think this is what most people are doing. They're kind of going, oh, I called and they have chiropractic coverage. Oh, yes, I'll take it. Well, no, not so fast. Just because there's chiropractic benefits doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to accept that plan because that plan could pay horribly. What if a plan only pays $25 a visit? No, thank you. I don't think I can keep my business open for that. So you want to start to create, again, a spreadsheet, but information about what's covered. I'm going to suggest you're using some type of standard way of gathering information. Now, this is kind of an old school insurance verification form, but what's important is to understand what information you want. Now, a lot of this you're going to gather online, but to me, you need to know information about the patient. So at the top, of course, this type of form has the patient's name, but what are the policy benefits? One thing I'll point out, notice here it says time limit for filing. Keep in mind, one thing to know when you accept an insurance, how long do I have to submit a claim? By example, for California providers recently, Blue Cross of California only allows 90 days. So what if you hold on to that claim for 95 days and don't submit it? They're not going to pay you. So you do want to know how often do we have to send claims or how quickly, because if it's past statute, it's going to be a problem. Realize not all insurances are 1 year. Some could be 180 days or some even 90. Here's what I think is really important to find out, though. And there's a couple of things. And it's number one here. It says, policy benefits. Are services provided by a chiropractor covered? Well, technically, that has to be true based on the equality law. But let's just ask, do you have chiropractic benefits? Are you going to pay a chiropractor? That's what you want to ask, a point blank question. But that's not enough, because what if they say, oh, yes, we have chiropractic benefits? And you think, thank you. You hang up, you bill the insurance, and they come back denying it. Now you're upset. Oh my God, they didn't cover it. Why didn't they cover it? Well, because maybe you didn't ask the next question. Notice here is, are you paying only for in-network or out-of-network? There are some plans that will only pay in-network. And if you call and they say, yes, we have chiropractic benefits, but only for in-network providers like an ASH, you'll say, okay, thank you. I'm not a part of ASH, Mrs. Jones. Therefore, it's a cash patient. So that's something you want to know. If you are billing and they're out-of-network, great, easy. But what if you're in-network? Great, you may know that. You know what I'm always going to ask, though? Because you always think, well, I'm in network with that plan. A lot of people have been dropped or don't realize they're not in the plan. Always ask, is my provider or am I listed as an in-network provider? They can easily look that up by your last name. Now, if there's out of network, what do they cover? Is it covered? Yes or no? Be point blank. Do you cover for out of network? Okay. Now, another thing to find out is if you're out of network, many plans will cover. And I'll give an example. Blue Cross and Blue Shield, United Healthcare often have pretty generous benefits for being out of network. In fact, sometimes I wonder, why did someone join to get less money than they would pay out of network? And many people are, I wasn't aware of that. Well, that's something to find out. But most importantly, figure out also, well, if you're out of network, what are they going to pay? But then who are they going to send the check to? I know you're all familiar with the assignment of benefits. Block 13, send the check to the doctor. Well, realize United Healthcare and Blue Cross do not have to honor assignments if you're out of network. Now, I know sometimes they will send it, but you want to make the patient aware if they won't honor it, we have to have the patient to know, hey, we're going to bill for your insurance, but they're going to send the check to you. Now, unless the patient's paid you up front, you want to make sure the patient knows when you get this check, got to bring it to me. Notice this verification is allowing us to know what's going on because I don't want to chase after money. I want to make sure the patients create a value for the service and pay for it at that time. Now, what about deductibles? Ask, is the deductible met? Because they might say, well, it's $500. Yeah, but has it been met? I also want to know, could it be a family deductible? And what's the deductible period? Here's something interesting. Now, it's in the middle of the year now, so this is not as critical. But at the first of the year, often people will think that their deductible always resets. Not necessarily. Some plans offer a grace period. Let's say, by example, you have a deductible. You go to the doctor in December. You pay the deductible. But then you continue to go to the doctor in January. Does it reset? Many plans will allow a rollover for services you've seen within 60 days prior to the new year. Worth asking. The other thing to know, though, look at the bottom here. It says, does the plan require pre-certification? Is there any requirements for authorization? There are some plans that do. I mean, Regents, Blue Cross Blue Shield after 6 visits. Some plans with ASH after 5. Other plans, none. So you want to find out because there's nothing worse than sending a claim going, oh, it didn't get pre-authorized. So in other words, you're trying to get as much information out of this as possible. But you know what I also want to know? Are there limits? Is there a number of limits to the care? Does it allow 24 per year? Is it combined with acupuncture or PT? Because what if they've been to, I don't know, 3 PTs and used up all 24 visits? There's none left for us. So do make sure, is there any requirement like that? Or is there a money cap? There are some plans that pay only $1,500. You want to find out, well, has that been met anyplace else? Some plans will offer a certain number of days. By example, there's plans with Longshore in Southern California that for 60 days they'll allow for that care, but after 60 days it would be no. Or is there any specific diagnosis requirements or limits? For a chiropractic, that usually just going to be neuromusculoskeletal. But at the same token, it doesn't hurt to inquire. What we're trying to do is to find out, is there going to be coverage, to not fool ourselves, to make our patients know what's going on. You might even be able to ask, hey, do you or can you give me a price for any specific services? E&Ms, manipulation, they're often not going to do that, but it doesn't hurt to ask. Sometimes they will. Now, if you're in network, possibly they will, but many won't. Now, remember, just because an insurance will pay $50, if your fee is $75, you still bill $75. Patients pay $75, they get $50 back, or their insurance pays $50 of it. What we're trying to do, though, is to set it up so that you don't have a mystery of what's covered and not covered. And I'm going to suggest you don't have to do this as much as everyone thinks. If you really look at it, most of you are probably billing 5 or 6 core insurances on a regular basis. You're not billing hundreds. Once you get the information and data from that, start to put it on a spreadsheet, create some analytics. So you know, okay, when this person comes in, this is what's going to be allowed under this plan. This is what they're going to pay for. Here's the amount. That's why you can go to a dentist. You ever notice you go to the dentist and they'll tell you your copay is $17.34. You're thinking, how do they know that? Well, there's a system they can use for that, but we can create it ourselves. Go to past EOBs. Go to something that you've had in the past. Reference, okay, what codes did they pay, did not pay, what did they allow? Don't leave this to guesswork, because obviously someone who has insurance is more likely to use it, more likely to come in. Doesn't mean there's not a good part for a cash practice, but why not cherry pick the better plans? The goal of your business, the goals of care, are to create a value to what you do. People want it, they pay for it. But you want to think of reducing the pain point. If I can reduce the pain point of cost by letting them use their insurance in some manner, making sure they understand it, that's going to be all the better. And that brings me to a super bill. A super bill is fine. Give it to the patient, but I would ask many of you, if a doctor gave you a super bill, would you know what to do with it? Where do you send it? How do I send it? And all those factors there, that may make it complicated. I'm going to suggest, even if the patient is paying you cash, give them a simple receipt to show what they've paid. I would suggest, as a courtesy, submit an electronic claim, which basically is free to you, but just don't accept assignment. So the patient comes in, hey, you paid me $100. Instead of giving you a receipt that you now have to go home, figure out where to send it, put it in the snail mail, taking 2 months to get it back, I send it electronically. Maybe the patient gets a check in 2 weeks. How much better is that? Always think of, we're dealing with pain, people in pain, but also the pain point of the value. Reduce it, make it easier. So that means cherry pick. Don't be afraid, but know what's covered. Don't guess. Now, that form I showed earlier, if any of you are part of our network, it's part of our document library. That information is there. Or if you're a member of our services, or just simply rewatch this and use the same information, but make your life simple. That's what we're here to do. HJ Ross, we do seminars. We do programs where we work one-on-one because you want you successful. That's ChiroSecure's goal, and it is mine as well. See you again next time, my friends.